He wouldn't start for my club.
Look at you.
But for you guys have to play him.
Oh my god. Welcome back to the Social Media Derby. How you doing, Lincoln? You good, man?
Accidentally muted myself. I'm good, my guy. I'm very good. It's been a weird week. People again asking me, where's Jonty? Stop asking me, my guy. Just put one under the armpit. Just poof, leave him slumped over on a bench.
Oh man, he's gonna have to go through this editing and he's gonna see it again. Same intro again. Man's done out here. What was that stupid line from Top Boy? That one, like, you got to get him done. What's
Oh
that,
man, it's all
that one line.
I was at the line where he's like,
terrible.
"Do you hear what I said? If man busting shots at you, and I know about it, it's mad. I'm moving out immediately."
Oh man, there's so many lines from that series, but yeah, Jonty is all well and good. Spoke to him the other day, so he's good. But man, we've got a jam-packed episode today because we've got to hold our hands up and my bad ourselves for our Champions League predictions. We both went absolutely west on those ones. But the weekend, we've had some really interesting results. 2 really late wins for United and Arsenal. But in very different fashion, I'd say. The Arsenal City game and the United Brentford game went really, really differently. But let's first go into the Champions League, bro. Both of us lost. We did not see it coming. We did not call it. We predicted United win. Don't know why we did that, to be honest. I think we were just doing it for vibes, to be honest. But that was shocking. And the bigger surprise was you lot losing in France at Lens 2-1. Let's start with that game then first, because you were shouting 4-0 or 4-1 with Jorginho. So, man, crazy debut, crazy prediction. Well, not really debut, but you know what I mean. It's a big call that you made. So what went wrong?
Fam, let's start here. I am an Arsenal fan. Okay, I support the Arsenal, right? North London things. I am not on a week-to-week basis, beyond having a family, holding down a job, supporting the Arsenal. I am not watching Liga week to week. Okay, I'm not one of that. We all have friends like this. We all have friends who are football fans who are like, "Oh, by the way, Dominic Szoboszlai was the best player I've seen in my whole life." It was like, really, my guy? You were watching Bundesliga or whatever in between following your team full time? No. So, first of all, I've never heard of Lens. I said it. I've never heard of these men. These men came up, and to be honest, full value for their money. I hold up my hands. They're better than us. They pressed us really high. They made it difficult. The fans were super loud and on top of us. And as a result, they deserve to win. So, yeah, I can analyze, but I don't watch all these people. I assumed that we had enough to beat the second best team in Liga. And to be honest, we probably should. However, it's Europe. You go there on a hot European night, anything can happen. And it did. So fair play to them, man. They really crushed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a fair prediction, though. I mean, okay, 4-0, 4-1, we were gassing a little bit, but they aren't even second now. They're like, what, they're 15th, 14th in the French league this season, like we were talking about last week. They've gone through upheaval. Like, they're not a big, notable French team. There's no reason that you lot shouldn't think, even rotating a few players, you can't go there and get the dub and get an easy victory. But I guess it was just the way it went, because you went up a goal and then you kind of lost the game really after that. And then Saka also got injured and then obviously didn't play in the big game yesterday. So it was kind of everything around it that I think made it feel a lot worse than it is. I still think you guys are in control of that group and you'll still, should be able to qualify without too much trouble. But that's kind of your one life that you have in the group stages that you're able to relinquish away somewhere, and you've got to go away to Sevilla. And trust me, from experience, that's not a nice game. I mean, you guys are better than us, but that could be a banana peel as well. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. I agree with you. They were full value for the victory. I mean, some of their goals were pretty good as well. It's not like you gave up some stinkers or anything like that. So I feel like you guys can keep your head up.
I would say that that first goal from that we conceded from the David Raya kick, which went short, and I want to talk about David Raya a little bit today. Maybe when we get to the United game, we can talk about him a little bit more. Sorry, not the United game, the City game. We can talk about him a little bit more. Yeah. But that second goal, or the first goal, was also just so well taken. Right, like it's one thing. It's one thing to sell your left back or your right back short with a pass, but for the guy to then come up and then Shaolin soccer style, like chest it and then volley it like Ibrahimovic style, like around the corner. Like you have to give like fair play. These guys are serious ballers. But yeah, it was a tough result. We definitely have to figure it out. Sevilla are going to be really, really tough opponents away from home. But again, we should have enough, especially after we've built a little bit of momentum on the weekend.
Yeah, no, 100%. The way it's kind of worked is kind of gone against you. I know we've made jokes about it's a Europa League group or whatever, right? But you kind of got the hardest team for the doubleheader, and the home and away, like in the third and fourth round of the Champions League. So you got Sevilla for the doubleheader, and as much as I think you should definitely beat them at home, they're tricky at home as well. Trust me. Like we were in a comfortable position against them and threw that away last season as well at home. But away, it's going to be really difficult. I still expect you, like I said, to go through. But yeah, I don't think you can overanalyze that game because, like you said, I don't know if you can even say that was really a Raya mistake. I mean, he obviously shouldn't have misplaced the pass, and he should have done better with it. But like you said, it was taken like so well. And I don't even know if it was really like a half chance. It was maybe a half chance that he gave away, and they took it so well. So, yeah, I mean, we will talk about Ryan more in the City game because I think he was quite shaky, but I think maybe that led to it. I don't know because there was some chat in the Arsenal fan base around the whole Raya Ramsdale stuff, and it doesn't seem to be dying down with every game that passes. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting situation now in the group stages. Is at least going to make it a bit more fun for the neutral to watch you guys get through the group now because everyone was kind of giving you guys a straight pass through considering who you got in that group. But yeah, now it should be a bit tasty. But I still don't think you've got anything major to worry about. So yeah, let's chat about the United game then. So I mean, we did get that one wrong, but at the same time, I think we kind of alluded to how it was. United are playing poorly, and anything can happen. But at the same time, we both predicted, what was it, 3-1, 2-1 wins, something along those lines. And yeah, came away with the home L, 3-2. Could have been 4-2. Icardi missed the penalty as well. I mean, every time they attacked, it looked like we were just going to concede. Like, it was absolutely shocking. But it was really, I don't know if you agree, bro. It'll be good to get your opinion. But I actually thought our attack was pretty good in that game. But everything beyond the attack was poor. So it was almost like you had two different teams playing. Like Højlund was on fire. Even Rashford was playing all right in the first half, I would say. His assist for the Højlund's first goal was really good. But our defence was poor, all over the place. Varane, not good. Lindelof, not good. Dalot, terrible for the first goal. Onana, not good for the penalty. Even the first and the third goal, I'd say he was, at fault for them, or he could have done better at least. But yeah, shocking result. Like I said, performance, if you split it between the attacking half and the defensive half, was quite mixed. But we're in real trouble now in this group. Real trouble. Because I don't think we're going to get a result in Istanbul. I think it's debatable whether we could get a result against Bayern at home. It's not looking like it in this form. And I've heard that even Copenhagen are pretty handy at home. So, bro, it's
Man's
not
looking at
looking
man's
or
looking at
sounding good.
Copenhagen's form now as well. Like,
Mate, where are we going to get these points? You know what I mean? Like the 6 points against Copenhagen, I think everyone banked that already. You know what I mean? And now we might have to go to the bank and try and we might be in arrears out here. So,
it's not good.
what did you think of the game?
Well, I want to take issue with what you said initially at the beginning, even though I think across these two fixtures, the one that happened on Saturday and the Wednesday one, didn't get them entirely right. But I think you'll agree, I got them emotionally right. Emotionally, I got the right results. Because
NXG.
what did I say would happen? The funniest possible things would happen. And across these two fixtures that happened. That United game, the United Galatasaray game, is one of the funniest games of football I've seen in a long time. Some of the weirdest, funniest, just bizarre slapstick defending that we saw from United. It was honestly hilarious. Whether that's Zaha scoring, bullying your man off the ball. I think it was Dallo who just completely honestly, he just took him by the scruff of the chest and just pushed him aside. Onana doing weird things.
Mate.
Conceding the penalty getting missed, and then still conceding. Like, what is
he got chipped 5 yards off his line. How does that happen? You know what I mean? How do you get chipped 5 yards off your line? It's unprecedented stuff.
And I would argue, even for the first goal, he is kind of.
He should do better.
He's kind of in no man's land. I'm talking about Onana. Yeah, he's kind of. So the ball takes a bad deflection and it bounces over him, and you can argue that's not his fault. But fam, you're either closing down, smothering it, or you're on your line, saving it. And he just does neither of those things. And I think too many times in the last couple of weeks, we've seen Onana concede goals where I'm kind of like how they say Peter Schmeichel used to just be like, stay on your feet as long as possible, make him make a shot and then save. I feel like Onana is just kind of staying on, he's not picking anything. He's not staying on his line. He's not coming out. He's just kind of standing up, and then letting the striker put the ball past him. So really bad slapstick stuff. Galatasaray were good, but I mean, how good really? How good really were they, and how good did United allow them to be? The only bright spark, Højlund looks really good, man.
Yeah, no, we've seen glimpses of it, and I would say there were some United fans going overboard, right? I think even against Arsenal when he came on, his little cameo, people going overboard with how he was battling with Gabriel. I think it was honestly just the fact we haven't seen a proper striker for so long, so he was doing basic stuff, and we were gassing it up, right? But I feel like his performance against Galatasaray was his standout performance. Like the way he took those 2 goals, there was the offside goal as well. Everything he did was just really, really encouraging. And I think maybe I'm being a little bit unfair to him when I say our attack was good in that game. It was Højlund who was really good. I think Rashford was semi-decent, and that was pretty much it. But it was mainly Højlund that I mean, and I'm referencing when I say attack was decent. I agree with you 100%. Our defending was absolute shambolic. I don't know how many times I've said shambolic to describe United in these last few weeks, but it must be multiple times. But yeah, Onana, I agree with you, man. There's fundamental things that he's doing that don't make sense, for a goalie. Like a top-level goalie, there are things that he's doing right now that just don't add up to me. Like you said, he's not coming off. He's halfway coming off his line and halfway staying on the line. He's diving early or falling to the ground early and allowing himself to be chipped from all these strange angles. Even his ball playing, that penalty that was conceded. I heard some other fans and content creators make jokes about, that should be the time when you should be allowed to transfer a red card from one player to another, because Casemiro didn't. I mean, he's an idiot for making that challenge, but it's completely on Onana. He's completely sold, and there's no reason for him to do that. But yeah, I mean, I can't say he's had one game so far where he's done everything to a 6 or 7 out of 10 level. I think every single match that he's played in so far, he's had shaky moments. He could have done better on goals. He's outright conceded chances and given the opposition a chance to score. And in that Galatasaray game, I think I agree with you. I think a top goalie saves the Zaha chance. It's not even a proper shot on goal, really. If you think about it, something easy to be swept up. And I don't think the penalty happens and the Casemiro red card happens. I certainly don't think the Icardi chip from 5 yards off his line happens. Like I just don't think any of those scenarios happen if you have a top goalie in there. Even a B level goalie. Because when I say top goalie, people will think of your Alissons, your Ter Stegens, your Courtois, your Edisons, stuff like that. I'm even saying that level below. I don't even think Nick Pope concedes those goals. I don't think Nick Pope concedes them. I think maybe even Jordan Pickford doesn't concede them. Like, you were on a podcast months back and we were talking about Jordan Pickford to United. Mate, I was saying don't get Jordan Pickford. I've got to say Jordan Pickford would be doing better for us right now than Onana is. So I don't know if that's maybe too reactionary, but he's not looking good, man. Really not looking good.
Fam, that is, I think, yeah. Look, I can tell you're hurt, which is why you said these things. Pickford is not the answer. Let me just start there.
No.
However, but there's really a problem. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Goalkeeping stats are cooked. There's no point looking at them. There's just absolutely no point looking at them. Just because the difference between a good goalie and a bad goalie is something like 3 or 4%. And if you think about the save percentage of 3 or 4% across a season, it's nothing. It doesn't tell you anything about the types of shots they're conceding. It doesn't tell you about for example, Lloris, up until fairly recently, one of the best goalies in the Premier League. But everyone knows that for the last 4 years, in every big game, Lloris has a clanger in him. And the problem for United now, and I think it's okay. It's good that they won. I think it's good that they won against Brentford because the narrative would be very, very, very different. Once your goalie is conceding goals that cost you games, once they're conceding slapstick weird goals, and you start, in the kind of the expectation is building in the fans, and they start getting nervous. As soon as the ball goes near him, then you're gone. There's no point. You can't come back. Onana's not there yet, but a couple of more performances like he's given in these past 2 games, and I think it'll be very close.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. We're not far. We're not far away from that point. And by no means am I advocating for Jordan Pickford, right? My original opinion on him stands. He stinks. But I'm just saying, to that level, I think a goalie of that level will be doing better than Onana is right now. So he needs to sort his form out ASAP. He needs to start working on the fundamentals, the basics, and just I don't know what's going on. I can't believe a goalkeeping coach will be encouraging the behaviour that he's been showing on the pitch. So there's a disconnect somewhere, and I can't believe he's training that way. So there must be something going on mentally. There must be something going on in the background, or it must just be. I'm hopeful that it's an adjustment period, and he's going to work out, what to do in these key moments. But yeah, at the moment, I agree with you, bro. We're not many more bad performances away from a Taibbi situation. And yeah, 40 million on a Taibbi, boy, that's going to hurt a lot. But anyway, let's get into the. But yeah, our chances for the Champions League. I better start clearing out my Thursday nights because it's not looking good for us, bro. And I think we're heading to the Europa unless we seriously turn things around. And yeah, I'm not going to be happy with that. We can't go out in the group stages with that group that we've got given. If you take Bayern out, we should be beating those other teams. So no excuses. Let's get to the big game of the weekend then. Positive stuff. Arsenal versus City. 1-0. This is where our prediction stuff starts taking a turn for the better for both of us, I think.
Yeah,
for both of us. Because I think if you analyze the game, you called a really tactical warfare, overly tactical, like loads of let's just put it this way, like Bleacher Report and all of them, man, would be like super happy with analyzing all the data and the stats on that game, because it was two really tactical managers trying to outwit each other, which you called, and it was a throwback to the Jose and Rafa old days. How many people have I seen online talk about the game and say, "Oh, that was a bit of a stink fest to watch. Wasn't the greatest game to watch because defensively both teams were doing really well, and both teams couldn't work out the right tactics to kind of break each other down until Gabby Martinelli steps up and Nathan Ake unfortunately doesn't manage to get his face out the way." And you score the winning goal in the 85th minute, 84th minute, something like that.
86th.
Wow, even later. And I believed in you as well, bro. So that's my only contribution to this. I called it, and I said that I thought Arsenal would win. I'm glad you guys did, because that was a smelly game, and now the table's looking more competitive. And I don't think we're going to have that problem where City are going to run away with it. I think you guys, probably not Spurs. They did well to win, but I think they've got a thinner squad. I still think they're going to struggle, but I think you guys can push them. But what did you make of the game, first of all?
So I've heard loads of people say that it was a stinkfest, that it was boring. It's difficult because when you're actually invested in the result of the game, that was the furthest thing from boring for me. I thought that was a very tense, exciting game, because it was very difficult for and there's two guys trying to figure it out. And it's this massive arm wrestle, and you can feel the tension build as you get closer and closer to full time. And then Pep makes his move. He brings on subs. Arteta counters. What kind of shape are they going to take? I thought it was a really good game, just from the kind of not neutral perspective, which you don't often hear. I would say it was very much just like setting up to block up space. It reminded me a lot of the Community Shield game, which was very, very similar, which is City putting their foot on the ball saying, "Come and press us," and Arsenal saying, "You mad? You mad? You think we're going to come out and press you? Nah, allow it, fam." And so basically, you just have these two teams kind of, having the ball in their third, and then slowly but surely struggling to make their way into the middle third, and then not really knowing what to do once they get there. It happened over and over, like 20 passes in the first third of the pitch to get into the midfield, only to turn around and pass it right back. And so I can understand from that perspective it was quite boring, but I was quite absorbed. And when that goal went in, I swear, fam, like my shoulders still, I got bicep tendonitis, like my shoulders in bits, because I was screaming so hard and slamming things around me. It was a good win. So happy for the Arsenal to come up and just do that and really get that kind of monkey off our backs and just continue to build. And the thing is still, what we always say is, is we're still kind of within ourselves. We're not playing to our biggest potential. We're still so much to go with so many injuries that we have. And so, yeah, very, very pleasing, especially to win without Saka as well. It's fantastic.
Yeah, man. No Saka, which a lot of Arsenal fans were very upset with Arteta in midweek for playing him, because he's kind of looked like he's had this injury for a couple of games now. So, yeah, he wasn't even in the squad. Martinelli on the bench. Partey on the bench, Trossard, Nketiah, Jesus on the right wing. It wasn't anywhere near your first choice. I would argue probably not even your second or third choice attack. But key, I would say, because I agree with you. I kind of agree with you and kind of disagree with you. I think from the neutral perspective, it was a stinkfest. But it wasn't a stinkfest in that sense, like there was nothing interesting to see going on. There just wasn't a lot of chances being given up, right? And a lot of like what we consider entertaining football is there are some chances, even in one of these big games, and there wasn't really. Like I can think of City's two main chances coming from that Raya uncertainty corner kind of half clearance situation where who's it? Rice clears it off the line, and then
Mm.
Ake, skies a chance off the next phase of play. But I can't remember a chance that they had in the rest of the game. And if you take away the Martinelli chance or goal, I can't really think of too many chances you guys had. So if you think about it that way, I understand why people are saying it's a stinkfest. But I agree, it was very much. You could tell it was a top of the table clash, and every little thing or mistake or little misplaced pass or any little kind of drop in the levels was going to cause the other team to kind of have an opportunity to score. And for that, I think their concentration levels of both teams were really, really high. Um, and because of that, it made it a really interesting game to watch. But I agree with you, man. You aren't playing anywhere near your potential. You haven't had your first choice starting 11, I think, throughout the whole season, and yet you're still second in the table or joint top or whatever you want to say, and you've beaten United at home, City at home, and drawn to Spurs at home. So you've had big games in there, and you've done pretty well. Just wanted to ask you on who you think the best performers and worst performers were, because um, I think you had quite a few good, best performers,
Mm.
or there's a couple of shouts in there. But who do you think did the best from your side?
So for the Arsenal side, I think good on the day, Declan Rice. I think it was man of the match as well, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and as well as Jorginho, who I have to say. The thing is, okay, here's the thing about Jorginho.
Redemption arc.
Jorginho is to me one of the most confusing football players in the world. Because Jorginho is, people describe him like, Jorginho does the stuff between football. When football's being played, Jorginho does the stuff between it. Jorginho doesn't press. He just stands in the place where you think he might press. He doesn't play the pass that leads to the assist. He plays the pass before the pass before the pass that leads to the assist. That's the kind of thing that they talk about with Jorginho. And to have, it's, I didn't realize this, but actually Jorginho, Odegaard, Rice is actually a really balanced midfield, because you have Rice offering the physicality and breaking up counter attacks and stuff like that, and you have you have Jorginho being in the position to receive the pass immediately after Rice has won it back. And he's so good at just kind of knitting things together. And in really big pressurized moments when it's like this, Jorginho can just calmly take the ball, just, okay, everyone calm down. All right, chill out, have a cappuccino. And he just passes it left to right. And he plays so well. So impressed. And then, but for me, the star uh, of that game was William Saliba. I thought he was immense. I thought it was so calm. The way he just kind of marshaled Haaland, the way, good clearances, just really calm under pressure, just showing up and just putting out fires wherever they were, because it is difficult. That is a good City attack, whatever you think about the personnel. And I think William Saliba, Arsenal fans really gassed about him and really rate him very highly. I don't hear other fans talking as much about Saliba. I don't hear other people talking about, but like, there's not a Premier League team now that wouldn't want a player like Saliba at his age and his ability already, what it is. I just thought he was immense.
No, yeah, I agree, man. I think that square, I know they don't all play in square shape, but your two centre backs and your two more defensive minded midfielders were your star. They were like an absolute rock in that middle of the park. I think Gabriel was immense. I think Saliba will get all the plaudits because he had a lot of one-on-one duels with Haaland and he did really well in them. But I think they were both outstanding. I think there were so many moments when Gabriel just, he just cleared the ball without any kind of confusion or hesitation. He mopped up. He was trying to help Raya when things were a bit shaky. Um, and I just think your centre backs were outstanding. And I don't think Haaland had a sniff. Like, I know there's a lot of games out there where Haaland touches the ball about 10 times, but he does that and then he also scores. In this
Mm.
game, it didn't look like he was going to score if you carried on playing for a couple more hours. Like, your defence just had him completely on lock, both of them. Whether it was Saliba or Gabriel, he didn't have a sniff. And then I think in midfield, yeah, Rice was. I said this to Jonty before, and I'll say it again to you. 105 million is a guarantee. People might have, unfair expectations because of the price tag and say he should be getting goals, assists. No, man. What he'll do is he will offer you like 100% solidity, and he's the closest thing you can find to Rodri. And for you to spend 100 million to get a player like that in his prime, who cares about the badge. He wants to play in those big games. He's obviously got, a really good mentality. You see him winning stuff with West Ham, and, West Ham are not, the most fashionable team to win trophies. He was the most obvious certainty that he was going to just slot into your team and do so well. And he's been great, man. I don't think he's had a poor game. I think there was a few games at the beginning where he was kind of getting used to, the formation, the playing style and stuff. But for him to be able to, basically crack it after 3 or 4 games and perform to the level he has in all of these big games that you've had, he's been outstanding. And I think, yeah, Jorginho definitely deserves some credit because he was probably the weak link. I think if you look at City, analyze your team, a lot of them would have thought maybe get around Jorginho like Madison Son did in that Spurs game and see if you can maybe, press him and try and nick the ball off for him and cause some problems for him. But he was really calm and he didn't look flustered at all at any point. And I think that's a real compliment for him. So I think he was great. And I think Martinelli deserves a shout out because as soon as he came on, your attack started to look a little bit more dangerous. And even though you can tell he was a little bit off the pace, like he hadn't played for a couple of weeks, he still looked like the player in your team that was going to make something happen. So yeah, I think he was good when he came on. Let's get on to the worst performers. I know it seems a bit harsh because you guys won, but I do think there were a couple of players in the team that either looked very shaky or didn't have the greatest of games. Let's start with Raya because you mentioned him earlier. That first half, I think Gary Neville was over egging it. Every
Mm,
single time he touched the ball, Gary Neville was, "Oh my god, look at him!
yeah.
He's looked so shaky," and was trying to get onto him super super swiftly. But I do think he had a point in there in that he definitely looked a little bit unlike himself, like what we've seen at him at Brentford and in his first few games. He looked shaky, and it looked like he was taking that Champions League game with him into this game. But what did you make of his performance?
Um, basically, I think this is an issue. Um, oh God. Basically, I think this is a huge problem, and what Arteta has done here is he's raised, and this is the key word for the day. He's raised the narrative XG, the NXG
It's
on
back.
Raya for making a mistake is so much higher,
Mm.
and it's for a couple of reasons. So I just kind of, if you can bear with me, and I just want to get like so. If you look at the two big managers of the kind of recent past and modern Premier League history that have done well, it's Klopp, it's Guardiola. Klopp has kind of achieved that by building this amazing core, this amazing team spirit. Those players will run through brick walls for Klopp, and he's been able to achieve success. It's also made it difficult for him to refresh because that kind of dedication from those players demands insane loyalty for them to run through brick walls for you. You can't just then bring in someone else because they're going to be like, well, what's this guy talking about? Now, if you look at Guardiola, Guardiola is processes, dude. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how big your dick is. Guardiola is in there, and he'll tell you, you're out of here. Sane, go. Yeah, man. Cancelo, bye bye. I don't care. He'll get rid of anyone. And
Mm.
so I think Arteta is kind of stuck somewhere in the middle between these two things because he's kind of a Guardiola disciple. He wants to be like Guardiola, but he also wants to build this connection with the fans and do all of the Klopp stuff. And so I think he's kind of fallen between two stools here, where it's really hard for us as fans to buy into it. And for players as well, if you're like, no, we have to build this connection between the fans. If Arteta then breaks the connection, it's kind of like, well, what's the point of building that connection in the first place? And I think it's
Mm.
kind of what he's done with this Raya thing, man. He's brought in Raya, who's good, but he's not so much better than Ramsdale that you're like, well, okay, obviously this makes complete sense. It's not like a Joe Hart Edinson situation or Edison situation. So or a Loris Karius Allison situation.
Mm.
So I mean, I'm really worried. I'm really worried. It's the only thing I'm worried about, just because I think we could have still won these games easily with Ramsdale in goal. And until that is the case, I don't think Raya will have justified his purchase.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I completely agree with you. Like I had this we've had this convo on the pod with Johns, and he was quite upset. I think when this situation happened and Raya got drafted in without kind of Ramsdale making a howler or kind of a big mistake or anything, and he was sure that it would be a proper rotation, like Arteta said. But we talked about it as well. Arteta's a liar, and
Mm.
it was clear. And I
Capping.
said
He
this
was
from the
capping.
he's straight capping, and I said this to Johns at the time. No, no, no. He's obviously bought Raya to play him, and he just was waiting for a time to be able to do it, and or waiting for Raya to get up to speed and to be able to force him into the lineup, and that's what's happened. And he hasn't left the pitch since. But I have to hold my hand up again because before Raya joined, I was of the opinion that he was a slightly better goalie than Ramsdale. I did use the word slightly. I don't think there's a big
Mm.
difference, and I've always thought Ramsdale's really good. But I actually think I'm completely wrong. I actually think Ramsdale's a better goalie than Raya. I actually think he is a better goalie than Raya. And there's this whole narrative, going back to it again, narratives around what a ball playing goalie is. But I honestly think Ramsdale is good enough with the ball, and he's actually quite a lot better at shot stopping and just playing at this level. And maybe I'm going a bit too early on Raya because maybe it's possible that he's going to start to get used to playing for a big team and playing in these big games. But I don't know if he's got the mentality, and I think that's something that Ramsdale does have. I know he's made some mistakes, but he's also come up big in big games, and the way he talks and the way he moves, he looks like a big team's goalie, right?
Mm.
Like he might not be Allison level, he might not be whatever, and he might never reach that level, but he's definitely good enough to play for a team that's challenging for the
Yeah.
title. And there's no reason why I think he can't, win a title. We've seen much worse goalies in title winning teams. Yeah. I would say he's better than Joe Hart, even at Joe Hart's pomp, and Joe Hart's won a couple of Prems. He's been better than quite a few other goalies that won titles. So I actually think I'm gonna have to hold my hand up and say my bad. I think Ramsdale's a better goalie than Raya. And I think it will just be proven the more we see Raya play and look as shaky as he's looked and make, almost Onana level howlers. Like he hasn't reached that level yet
No.
by any means, right? But I don't think it's not on the cards. I think, he can make bigger howlers and more frequent howlers than Ramsdale. But yeah, I do agree with you. It wasn't broken, man, so don't fix it.
It wasn't broken. And at the same time, uh, the extra pressure, and literally every goalkeeper says this, every goalkeeper that's in punditry now, I think it's Shaka Hislop who said this, is that I think Peter Schmeichel was saying something similar as well, if I'm not mistaken, which is that it's not just that you don't want your goalies to be proactive, trying to make things happen.
Mm.
Goalkeeper is a reactive position. You stop things from happening. You don't want a goalie going out trying to make things happen. And by signing Raya for the price that he signed him for, by bringing him in over someone who is a fan favorite in Ramsdale, the temptation is now there for Raya to justify his price tag. And I will say, I don't think if you look across the kind of sample size that we have, about 4 or 5 games, I don't think he's done anything that suggests that that's what he's trying to do. However, the things that he hasn't done well, there's people who say, for example, Ramsdale's not great on crosses. And then like you ask them, what's the stats? Something like Raya comes in and catches something like 8% of his crosses coming into his box. Raya catches. And then I think the Ramsdale stats something like 4. And I'm like, 4% across an entire season in a different team that plays in a different style, that concedes different kinds of chances, is enough to justify getting rid of someone who's an obvious fan favorite. I don't know. I don't know, man. And the other thing I'm going to have to say about this quickly, and I know we have to start moving on as well, but is Arteta's a young manager. He's an idealistic man. It's very rare to have a young manager in your team, especially at a big club. And so you have to understand that he's going to make mistakes. I suspect when the dust settles, we'll say that this was one of his mistakes.
Yeah.
As long as he learns from it, cool. We have to go with that, and we have to give him time to make that mistakes as well, which is not something that you say a lot about managers. You say it about a young player a lot. You got to give him time. Blah blah blah. Arteta's in Europe now for the first time, managing a big club. He's trying to challenge for the second year in a row after falling short last year. So he's trying to find his identity as a manager, and we do have to give him time. But yeah, that doesn't mean in the meantime you can't be annoyed, which is what I am.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. And but let's look at the positive side. Raya is signed on a loan with I think there's an obligation to buy if he plays X amount of games, or there's some technicality where he may get triggered into a permanent deal. But who knows? Maybe that's the reason why Arteta's done that deal, because it's kind of an experiment to see, and it's a bit of a win-win. Either Raya does well and you keep him in the team, or you bring Ramsdale back in. And hopefully he performs to the same level. But I agree with you, man. You got to let him make these mistakes. I feel like your fan base struggled at the beginning with the first few, season and a half of Arteta, because that was what it was. But I don't think you can just say now that he's got his team, he's going to be flawless. Like, he's still going to make mistakes. This is his first job. And that first year and a half, 2 years, was just getting rid of the dead wood and the bad apples and trying to create his own squad. So, yeah, let's see. I agree with you. I think I'm fully on board this Ramsdale train now. Now I think it may be. No, I've always rated him, but I thought the Raya thing was, that Raya was going to be a better goalie, and you're just trying to get an incremental, improvement in the team. But I don't think it's going to pay dividends in the end. Now, I think I've seen enough. But who knows? After last week's predictions, you can't trust what I say these days. Let's get into the big incident of the game. Really, there was only one major one, I think, and that was the Kovacic challenge, or series of challenges. So there was an argument that he could have got sent off for the initial challenge, which was a bit of a dirty one on Odegaard's ankle. I've heard some people say it was maybe not high enough on his leg, and that's the reason why. But I think there's no. I mean, that one might be a contentious one, right? But the second challenge, he definitely should get a second yellow for that, right? Or do you think maybe I'm being unfair, or do you think I'm being too lenient?
Dude, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, that first challenge to me is red. Like, straight contact on the Achilles heel. That's a career ender. Like, people snap their Achilles, they're never the same. Like, that's a mad challenge. Okay, you can say he went for the ball. First of all, it's from behind. I thought we don't tackle from behind anymore. Straight on the ankle, misses the ball completely. I don't get that. Fine, it's a yellow. All right, it's early in the game. You want to let the game flow. 5 minutes later, terrible challenge. Hits him again, square, like studs up the entire way, and nothing. How is that possible? Both of those decisions were absolutely disgraceful. Like, cool, I can accept that the first one is maybe an orange, but that the second one is as clear a yellow as I've seen. And for him to still be on the pitch is absolutely outrageous. That being said, he wasn't particularly good, and I think a large part of the reason that Arsenal did pretty well is that I think playing Kovacic where they played him that high up made things a little bit easier. But at the same time, I couldn't understand that. What about you? That had to be he had to go, right?
Man, I'm so tired of talking about the officiating, man. It's literally like I feel like we need to have a dedicated segment in the pod every week, and we're going to be filled up with like examples where we can talk about just shocking officiating. Because you'd think a week after the Tottenham Liverpool situation, and all of this talk about replays and everyone going in on the PGMOL, that they would have got their act together. And I agree with you on the first challenge. But where do we like draw the line with these kind of challenges, right? Like you said, it was from behind, it was a nasty one, like, and people that have played professional sport or even like casual amateur sport, say that one is a challenge that can cause real damage to you, right? Not necessarily the Curtis Jones one, not necessarily the Casemiro one from last season, or the Gusto one that we've seen red cards for that look terrible when you slow it down. That one was one that, like you said, can really do someone serious damage. And like someone who's played sport properly and doesn't just look at the rule book will tell you on first glance that is a dangerous tackle. So then, if you want to get into the like, oh, it wasn't high up the leg or whatever, and you know, find a little loophole out of there, I think, like, honestly, at this stage, when you've got all of these other examples of red cards, that's a red card, right? But if you bottle it, fine. You've bottled that and you've got out of it and you've looked at the loopholes in the rules. That second one happens like 5 minutes later, and it's not as bad as the first challenge for sure, but it's definitely
No,
a yellow card as well. And like, I don't know how he got away with not giving that red card. Even, you know, he had a chance with the first one, and the second one's a no brainer. Like, you can get out of the first one with little loopholes, but the second one, it's a second yellow. He
yeah,
deserves to be
second
off.
yellow.
Like,
Fam,
what are you doing?
if you do that first challenge at Power League, like if you go into someone's, like if you're on someone's Achilles at like 5-a-side, dude, it's on sight. Dude, it's
Yeah.
it's
a brawl.
plickies,
It's a
dude.
brawl settings.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's like you'd have to forfeit. Everyone would have to get a deposit back, because it would be violence, dude. It'd be blood in the
Yeah.
streets. Like, you can't do that. It's such a bad challenge, and for him to get away with it is absolutely outrageous. That's I guess we're going to move on to United relatively soon, but dude, that's like Casemiro won like seven Champions Leagues with that exact situation. Just yellow after yellow, challenge after challenge, yellow after yellow, just never getting sent off. Um, but yeah, I guess Kovacic is doing that now. He's got the Fernandinho
Madness.
glow, though, that aura that Fernandinho had for years.
People won't talk about it, but yeah, City get away with some wild stuff, man. The amount of tactical fouls they get away with, even when they're not as dirty as this, they're just like, it's one of those unwritten, you know, rules and myths of football that you just get away with everything. Whether it's Fernandinho was kind of like the trendsetter for that in early Pep days. Rodri's taken that on now, and unless he's, you know, grabbing man up by the neck or something like that, he doesn't get a yellow card or red card either. And now Kovacic with that, so it was mad. Yeah, let's just wrap up the last few things on the Arsenal game, because I think, you know, big deal, man. You guys haven't beaten them for ages. You know, I know you've beaten them in cups and a few things, but you finally beaten them in the league. You've beaten them at home. You did it without Saka. I think Odegaard didn't have the greatest game either. I don't think
No,
Nketiah was fantastic either. There were a couple of people that went missing, but you managed to do it. Do you think this is going to give you guys a little psychological advantage, or do you think this is just leveling the playing field now against City? What's your overriding feeling now that you've got the W in the bag?
I think that was absolutely massive, just because that was kind of the last thing that we haven't been able to accomplish domestically. We've done pretty much everything, I think. Um, I think we've beaten all the big sides. So, like, we had a huge block against Liverpool, beat them at home last year, drew to them away. We've struggled. Like, even something as silly as, I remember early in the season we had to go to Stamford Bridge and play them, and this is like late Potter era Chelsea, but we beat them, and that was important because we kind of set in these goals and we're overcoming them, and this was definitely one of the goals. So, like, you know, we can go up to the Etihad and say, cool, we'll take a point. Um, we can go up to Anfield and really go for it and all that kind of stuff. So I think it really sets us up really well. And as long as, and I think the most important thing is what Papa Wenger always used to say: no, you never get higher than a 7, you never get lower than a 3. Yesterday, the thing that made me happy, and Gary Neville pointed it out, is just happiness, pure joy in the stands. But the players themselves were cool. Job done. Shaking hands. Did it. And seeing that is the most encouraging thing that I've seen, because I think that shows a lot of emotional growth and maturity from this team.
I agree, bro. I think Arsenal have grown up. I think you were on this. You were showing real signs of it last season. Yeah, in big away games, in big home games against the big six, there were signs where you guys were starting to crack it and you were starting to perform on the pitch. And then, okay, the little wobble happens at the end, but that's going to happen when you're learning and you're growing and you're on this journey. But I think this game was the key one, because beating us at home, you've done that before, right? Beating Tottenham, okay, you didn't get the W, but you did the double over them last season. There's other performances where you guys have proven it, but the City one, we weren't joking and we weren't over egging the pudding when we say they had a hoodoo over you guys, or people have talked about this getting this monkey off your back situation. Like, it was serious. I saw some stat that I think 433 put up where they were like, you could flick through all the times City had beaten you in the league, and it was like endless. I'm not trying to stick the knife in. It was serious, and you guys have managed to do it, and you managed to do it without your best player, or arguably one of your best players. You managed to do it with half fit players, and you managed to do it with this goalie situation being a little bit uneasy, right? And they had Haaland, they had, I know they were missing Rodri and they were missing KDB, but they had a fairly strong squad, and still City fans were saying they had, they should be winning it. So you've done it despite all of that. So if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be, quietly confident, but with legitimacy this time. You guys are the real deal now, and whether you can get over the line, it's still very early in the season. But yeah, really good signs, man. And I think you can take a psychological edge into the away fixtures now going into the rest of the season. But let's move on to the United game. Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff. So again, no ways to watch it on English TV, but I've got some analysis anyway. 2-win win at home to Brentford. Let's get your opinion, because I've got my opinion. But let's go to the rival fan. What did you make of the match? 2-1 to United.
Man, that sucked. That was one of the. God, get this off my screen. What a terrible result for the neutral. That was just. Come on, man. McTominay? Come on, man. That was terrible. I hated it. I was enjoying it until I didn't enjoy it anymore. That's what I'll say about that.
Oh yeah, I was
just going to say it was all Ten Hag's broken toys, all the man he's trying to get rid of, all the missed assassinations. It's like in Sopranos. Did you watch The Sopranos, Anthony?
Yeah.
It's like in Sopranos, Artie Bucco, the restaurant owner. It's like, how he tries to divorce his wife, but then he doesn't have the money, so they just have to end up living together. That's Manchester United. All the players you try to get rid of, and they're like, okay, cool now, man. Now you still want one of our own, Harry Maguire, cool. Scott McTominay, hey, come on, man. That's what I'm seeing at United, the Artie Buccos.
Mate, the narrative XG was set up perfectly. Like you said, 1-0 down. We were stinking the place up again. More defensive.
Onana with a clanger.
Defending.
Onana with another clanger.
Yeah. Biscuit wrists Onana again. Ball went straight through him like he wasn't even there, like he was a hologram. Absolutely shocking. And even though we had loads of the ball, we were poor. It was like Palace again. Like, we looked absolutely toothless. Except at least with the Palace game, I could say that, Anderson's finish was class. And that was, I argued with Jonty because he thought that, Onana could have even saved that one. But I didn't necessarily think that was the case. It was all set up for us to fail. And the narrative XG was through the roof. And the complete opposite happened. Chuck on McTominay, chuck on everyone you can from your bench. And he started playing like he was playing for Scotland. It was mad. It was unbelievable. That was Scotland, Scott McTominay, not the McTominay we're used to. And England, you could argue England's Harry Maguire as well with the assist. But yeah, man, it was a really poor match. Really, really poor match. And I know some fans are out there saying, celebrate it. Don't basically on everyone's parade or whatever, but talk about how we played poorly and we kind of got away with it or whatever. But we really did. We were poor and we got away with it, and we didn't deserve the win. I think it was at best a draw for the amount of ball that we had, but we definitely didn't deserve to win that match. And if I was a Brentford fan, I'd be absolutely heartbroken, because in a way, I don't think they deserve to win for some. For if you look at it in the fact that we were open and they should have just gone for us like Galatasaray did. You wouldn't even have taken an outstanding performance to beat us in the form that we're in and the way we look defensively. But they didn't, and they kind of sat back and just tried to hold out for the win, and that was probably their biggest mistake. Because at the end, last 10, 15 minutes, we went straight Sam Allardyce, Bolton, Tony Pulis, Stoke City style
super
football.
direct, yeah.
Hoof it up, just put it in the air, get Slabhead on it, get Scott McTominay on it, get another massive player there, Johnny Evans on it, just do whatever and wait for knockdowns. And that's how the 2 goals came. I would say the only bright spark was Garnacho when he came on, because he was going at the defender. He was actually causing some problems. The first goal comes from him, not giving up the ghost and fighting for a cross on the byline. And he was good, man. But again, he came on for Rashford. He should arguably start at this point. Maybe, Garnacho on the right, Rashford on the left, something like that, because he's having a huge, huge impact. And I think at this point, you've got to just let him play. But apart from that, I think you've got to say best performers were, McTominay's cameo at the end. He's obviously won us the game. I think Maguire actually looked semi-solid, and Johnny Evans, they both looked all right in defence. Lindelof was the one who looked really shaky. I mean, that clearance for the goal that they scored was shambolic as well.
Yeah.
I would say they're probably the 3 players or 4 players you could say who came out of that match with any kind of credit. Worst performers, where does it end? Like, I think Bruno was invisible, didn't look like he showed up. I know he hoofed that last ball into Harry Maguire for the pre-assist on the last goal, but that was basically just a hit and hope. He was poor in the match. I think Rashford wasn't great. Casemiro got hooked at half-time, deservedly. He was poor.
Man.
And then Onana, I mean, we've talked about him already in the Galatasaray game, but he just continued that form into this game. Like, there's no way a top-level goalie should let that shot in. It wasn't like he had like a unclear view or anything like that. It literally bobbled past him. And at some point, it looked like he literally tried to punch the ball out. Like, that was his technique to try and save it. Just doesn't look like the technique of a professional goalie, man. But, boy, it's not a good performance.
I was just also going to say, do you want to stay on Casemiro just for a little bit? Because I think Casemiro is a real problem. Don't get me wrong, there's lots wrong with United. Casemiro is one of the bigger problems for me, because I think one of the reasons United is also so easy to break on is because I think Casemiro is way too high. I looked at the stats. He's United's highest goal scorer this season. 4 goals, 1 assist. And if he's vacating that space, getting goals and assists, and I'm not saying he's doing this because he's unprofessional or bad. He's being told to do this by Ten Hag, or being allowed to do it by Ten Hag. But the fact that he's so high up and getting caught out so often is a real problem for United, because there's no one else who can take up that space and play in the middle of the park with anything resembling the kind of surety that he does. How many times he gets sent off as well because he's like late on a counter attack and he has to tug someone down. Like, it's happened so many times over the last couple of weeks. So, like, do you think there's an issue with his form, and like, is there anything that can be done to address that?
I don't know, man. I think there's clearly an issue there. I think a lot of United fans have looked at his early season form this season and thought, maybe he's just kind of, had a joyful summer and, gone to 1 or 2 Brazilian parties or something like that and enjoyed himself a bit too much. And he's just going to take a little bit of time to, get into full match fitness. But that can't be used as an excuse now. He is seriously a problem in our midfield, because not only is he getting just bypassed with ease, he's also been poor on the ball. And like, whatever, you score a few goals in garbage time against Bayern Munich, you score a few goals in the Carabao Cup or whatever, great, fantastic. You're not going to hear me complain to see a United player score a goal. but the key function of a midfielder, and Jonty and I have argued this, whether he's a DM anymore, whether he's a box to box or whatever, but whatever midfielder you classify him as, he's not doing his job. Because if you look at him defensively, he's getting run past like no one's business and being forced to make terrible tackles, not only because Onana's sold him,
Yeah,
down the river,
down the river.
but
Yeah,
because also a lot of the time he's also been positionally all over the place. And a lot of the time it's also he's got to look at himself. Like he's been, like you said, too high up the pitch, not reacted quick enough, not been in the right position altogether. And so he's just been run past with complete ease. And then if you look at him on the ball, like that first goal also starts from him giving the ball away, just completely needlessly. Like that
yeah,
pass was never on, and he goes for it. And I think there were a lot of United fans in the early part of Casemiro's United career said, "Wow, we didn't know he was so good on the ball because he'd done a couple of crossfield passes, done a few pings here and there, but he's not a controller of the ball." And the simple fact is, we've got to look at our midfield now, and we've got to really analyze what we do going forward. Because, okay, Casemiro's not the holder. Maybe that's not the end of the world. We've got Amrabat. We can maybe ask him to do that. I think he can do it to a fairly good level, or at least a good enough level. But then if you look beyond that DM, we don't have a controller of the ball other than Eriksen. And Eriksen's not physical. We've talked about that. He can get pushed off the ball easily. So you need to have someone who's physically strong enough and is robust enough to, carry the ball and not get shrugged off the ball very easily. But you've also got someone who just is able to make good decisions and has the technical ability to spray passes around and not give the ball away so often. And I don't think Casemiro fits in either one of those boxes anymore, man. If I'm really, really honest, I don't think he does. And when Carragher he did an article a couple months back where he was talking about Casemiro being a huge problem, and a lot of United fans, me included, were saying that he was waffling and he was just doing his scouse thing and just talking badly on our club. But at the moment, man, I hate to say it, but he might have been onto something, and he may actually be right in that we've locked in Casemiro for another 4 years or whatever,
yeah,
and he's on the decline.
yeah.
And I don't know how we can use him to play the football that Ten Hag's trying to play going forward. And I think we really have to look at that and either try and tailor the system to protect him, or maybe kick him out of the team for a bit, man, because his performance has been poor.
Yeah.
So you've got to have the same energy that I want to put towards Onana and other players and Maguire in times gone by, and McTominay who've performed poorly, and put that towards Casemiro if he's not living up to it. And at the moment, he's not, man. He's not.
No, I mean, Casemiro is probably the best of the kind of aging superstar signing that I've seen in recent years. Like whenever clubs sign a kind of aging superstar, you know that there's a kind of shelf life on this. And I think, to be fair, because he was good last season, like to be fair to Casemiro, he was a really good player. He is getting older. And if you look around the Premier League, what every other kind of club has done is they've made huge investments in their midfield to the tune of, 100 million plus for Arsenal, for Chelsea, lots of money spent at Liverpool. And so I think long term, that's a solution that has to be found. Obviously not this January, but maybe a little bit later. But the problems for United now is just so many different problems. There's just so many different problems.
There's just too many. You know how you said you got one with the goalie? Like I was thinking, oh, what about us? And I was just tallying it up in my mind, and I was like, oh, goalie.
Yeah.
Oh, centre back. Oh, midfield. Oh, left wing. Oh, right wing. Oh, I've just got so many. Like we just got more problems than goals this season, and it's it's a tough time, man.
But man, talk to me about Maguire. Has he kind of low key done enough to deserve a start there? I feel like maybe this is the way we go. The Ardy Bucco of this thing of ours. Maybe we just get together, get some counseling. Just kind of sort it out. Maybe that's like.
Yeah, bro. United and Harry Maguire are definitely going to relate right now for some couples counselling, because I've made some jokes and gone on rants with Johns on this pod before and said, we need to just get rid of him. But at this rate, he's going to stay like Phil Jones did and just see his contract out and just
Yeah,
never leave. And at this point, I really think that's what's on the cards. And sadly and weirdly enough, like we don't have options right now. Like with the injuries we have and the form of some of our players, like other players, like Lindelof's been atrocious in the last couple of games. And he's our only fit centre back apart from Maguire and Evans. So what option do we have? We're going to have to play Maguire and Evans. And to be fair to them in this game, they actually worked and they actually did all right. And they didn't get exposed too much. But to be honest with you, man, that's just a ticking time bomb.
yeah.
Like, it might not have exploded in this game, but it will explode. And like we've seen enough of Harry Maguire that we know he's not good enough. So, okay, maybe he's earned a starting position for now, but it's completely conditional based on the situation we're in. Like if we had Lissandro and Varane fit, he wouldn't touch the pitch.
Mm.
He might, even with
Yeah,
the way
but I
he's
mean,
played, he might be like the first backup because Lindelof's been so poor. But he's not going to be on the pitch because he can't carry the ball and play line breaking passes like Lissandro. He can't recover like Varane. So what are you going to do? Like it's not a long term solution, is it?
it isn't. It isn't. But for the time being, I feel like he's done enough in that game where you can start handing out starts again. I just like realistically, like
Lincoln
what else is there
Southgate
to do?
out here. Lincoln Southgate, get your waistcoat on, mate.
Oh.
What are you talking about?
Oh, don't. He wouldn't start for my club.
Look at you.
But for you guys have to play him.
Oh my god. This is a new low, man. New low, and Arsenal fans just looking at you like
Not
shit
for
on
my
your shoe.
club.
Like,
Like,
oh
no, I can't.
no, not for me.
Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
No, I don't
Maguire,
blame you,
like,
mates.
It's like when you see that name, you're squinting, like Maguire. Ugh.
Yeah,
No, not for me.
mate, we've got
But,
a couple of them, but yeah. No, I hear you. I think what options do we have when we have so many players out of form, when we have so many injuries? If a player puts in a 6 out of 10, he's a guarantee for the next game at this rate. So I hear you, man. But yeah, long term, we can't be planning for Maguire in that team.
My next question to you is: how far away are we from saying? Okay, let me ask you this question: how many more howlers would you have to see before you're like, "Where's De Gea at? Tell him to turn around. Tell him to unpack his bags. You're taking him back. I made a mistake, baby. I should never have gone off right now. It was a midlife crisis. It was always you, De Gea. It was always you. How long before Ten Hag has to phone him up and be like, come on, whisper some sweet nothings into his ear? How long?
Man, there's two different answers to this. So I actually think because De Gea is available, I don't think that's off the table for the club.
Say it. Say it, and say it.
I don't think so. But
Say it.
I will never say that. This is the one thing, right? I've backtracked on how many things on this pod today, yeah? I've backtracked on bare things. Like all my predictions stinking, certain players that I thought were going to be terrible or do well have been poor. I will not backtrack on the De Gea thing. Because De Gea is literally... You talked about Lloris earlier. And I've talked about De Gea in the same breath as Lloris on previous pods. That is where De Gea was. Now, don't get me wrong, he was a legend. He definitely didn't deserve to just be ghosted and promised a contract renewal and then just left on missed calls. He didn't deserve that. He deserved, a testimonial and, some people to give him his flowers. But we can't bring De Gea back regardless. My next thing is, if Onana keeps up this stink fest, bring on the Turkish boy. Bring on the Turkish boy. We've got a backup goalie that we bought this season. Give him a shot. Give him a shot in the team. He can't be as bad as Onana. Literally, I will exhaust all of the other options before bringing back De Gea. I'll play Tom Heaton. I'll bring the 16-year-old lad from the under-18s.